Welcome to AI Driven, a podcast about using AI for business. AI Driven is produced and hosted by Cognistx, an AI company based in Pittsburgh with offices in the US, Latin America, and Asia. Today, AI Driven focuses on the technology that drives ChatGPT and similar systems. Joining us are Senior Data Scientist Kaushik Shakkari and Cognistx co-founders Sanjay Chopra and Eric Nyberg. Eric is also a professor in the Language Technologies Institute of the School of Computer Science at Carnegie Mellon University and a longtime researcher in question answering technology. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Patty.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Great. I'm glad you could all make it. Sanjay, I thought I would start with you and you could just kick us off by providing a little context about where we are with ChatGPT and applied question answering.
Of course, Patty. Thank you again, and it's a pleasure to be on the podcast today with Kaushik and Eric. So I think what ChatGPT at least has been able to do from a marketing perspective is awesome. I've never thought, an AI system would be on prime time 60 minutes. But I think sort of even the technology has come a long way. Of course, it's a generative model, it's a pre-trained model built on transformers. And I think what it's able to achieve is pretty good in terms of filling out forms or taking some of the mundane tasks away or being able to even generate papers. But there are shortcomings with these technologies. Obviously, being a generative model, it can hallucinate and come up with facts and come up with them in sort of, a very forceful manner, sort of almost convincing that, hey, this is the truth. So people have to be careful with these things, and that's something that the AI community would have to deal with in terms of, ethical AI and regulating it the right way. But now that we have Eric on with us, I'm going to stop talking. And Eric, if I may ask you, what is your perspective on ChatGPT? What does it do in terms of, state of the art for QA system, and where do you see it? Also, if you could talk a little bit about the past, where do you see the future going?
So I think one of the impressive achievements of ChatGPT is the ability to generate paragraphs of text which very much, meet our expectations for what we'd expect for certain kinds of genres like movie reviews or recipes or, freshman, lit papers. So it's very clear that the model that was trained was able to read a vast amount of text in order to kind of form a good impression of how to generate text in these different genres. But I think the thing we want to consider is not only what makes a great demo, and ChatGPT is probably the best demo of all time of a question answering system because of how many people who have actually used it already online. But when Kaushik and I get together to design a QA solution for one of our customers, one of the first things that comes up is how to measure success. And usually success is measured by meeting some goal of the customers, but also tying that to a certain level of achievement on formal metrics. How often do you get the right answer? When you get the wrong answer, is it highly misleading because you give it a high likelihood? So there's a lot of interesting sort of tuning with humans in the loop that happens when a QA system really gets used. And when you're providing QA solutions to business customers, they have a very low tolerance for hallucinations, like you mentioned. So if you hallucinate a possible air flight between where you are and someplace overseas, and some businessman predicates a business trip on that, then you're going to get in trouble. So, Kaushik and I talk about this idea of not generating a plausible text, but generating an answer that's actually been verified. And usually what that means is you sift through several candidate answers that your question answering system found for a particular question, and then you might look to see if there's any additional evidence that one of those should be chosen over the others. And then you make your final decision, and then you go forward. And we were doing this at scale, 10 years ago with IBM Watson.
Yep.
So I think the big thing to keep in mind about ChatGPT is that it's a lot simpler than IBM Watson because it leaves out this formal verification step. But because it's read a lot of text and sort of, memorized, many, many, many sentences, it actually does a pretty good job of mimicking, good answers.
Great. Eric, it would actually be very useful, I think, for the audience if you could talk about extractive models versus generative models, and also searching in the open domain on the web versus sort of closed domain for corporations.
Yeah, so I think if you want to verify an answer, one way to verify an answer is to actually provide the location in the original source material where the system found the answer. That's hard for generative models to do because they forget, the source of all the text that they're trained on. But extractive models typically combine a search engine and some form of information extraction to find answer-bearing sentences. And then basically another step is used to find the actual span of text containing the precise answer. And there you can easily, provide a verification to the user, which is you can bring up the original source text and highlight, where the answer appeared in the original document. So especially when you are working in closed domain situations where you have corporate information, maybe it's technical information like aircraft manuals, maybe it's business information, accounting reports, etc. It's essential, that any answers that the system gives you are linked back to where they came from. Because in a lot of cases, there could be ambiguity, and you want to be able to, reason about the quality, of the answers that you're getting by the quality of the links, to the sources.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Kaushik, let me sort of bring you in here also a little bit. So in terms of, tell a little bit about what Cognistx is working on in terms of Square, its capabilities, specifically as it relates to documents in the legal domain or the standards domain or compliance.
Sure, Sanjay. Thank you for having me here. But yeah, so what we did with Square is, as Eric explained, we build the extractive question answering system. Given a question, it will show you the exact location where the answer is present, and how confidently we also predicting that answer, which is very important for our customers. And as you are talking about certain domains like legal, aerospace, and compliance, etc., the requirements from customers are very specific. Each domain has its own challenge, be it extracting the information, like how documents come in, right? Like they come in much complicated table. There might be much complicated tables in it, and forms, or there might be multi columns, and we need to identify those challenges and have a specific solutions to extract and have a good quality answers there. At the same time, their customers have unique requirements. Some want to see long answers, some want to see short answers, some want to have ranking for those answers based on the confidence. Some want to go to the exact location of the answer. So with Square, what we do is like we provide that customization to different domains and different industries. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Eric, what do you think sort of is strength of Square being able to do domain specific models yet have a strong base model? And then, do we want to give a lot of knobs and bells and whistles to the customers to be able to tune parameters like, hey, how long the answer should be, show me top two links, that kind of stuff, or ease of use versus sort of, training for each of the domains? What are your thoughts there?
Well, when you're in academia or you're in a startup, you always want to have a brand new novel approach that is somehow, better than anybody else's approach. And, that becomes your secret sauce, whether you're publishing papers or, attracting investors. But when you're engineering QA solutions for particular solution domains, many of which do have a closed set of, target documents, which is much smaller, than the World Wide Web or Wikipedia, um, then you have to apply the principles of natural language engineering and choose the, simplest, most cost-effective solution, from all of the technologies on the shelf. And some of the more modern methods require a lot of training data that's not available in many of the domains that we work in. So the engineering approach dictates, that we use a more classic approach in domains like that. Um, so I think, as an applied AI company, you have to fit the solution to the circumstances and not assume that you have, a single product that's optimal for every single question answering domain. I think that's it's unlikely, that such a system exists really.
That's awesome. Perfect. So, Eric, let me sort of also build a little bit more on this. Obviously, one thing ChatGPT has done again is provided a lot of tailwinds for QA systems. Microsoft is integrating it with Bing. Now the search engine sort of, gives you
Mm-hmm.
answers that are generative. Where do you see the future of this going in the next few years, and what are some of the challenges
Mm-hmm.
that we need to be careful, both from a regulation perspective and an academia perspective and industry perspective?
So, the fact that models like ChatGPT exist is sort of a fact of life. And somebody spent millions of dollars, training the models from vast amounts of data. So the models are a valuable tool. So I think that, it's very likely that we are going to see people augmenting those models with additional algorithms, either that better prepare the data going into the model or, post processing the results coming out of the model um, to address the shortcomings, that we've mentioned here, like maybe a lack of verification or a lack of franking, as Kaushik called it, or answer provenance. Um, but it shouldn't be difficult at all to take a candidate answer from a model like ChatGPT and then project it into the target corpus to find if the answer can actually be validated. Right? It's just doing a fact checked. So I think from that perspective, there's going to be a sort of an industry around how to leverage models like that to overcome some of these, practical considerations to make them, more useful in domains where you got to verify, what's going on. But I also think, other companies and researchers are going to take the same models and then train them perhaps a little more cleverly um, to achieve maybe better understanding in certain domains. So the other thing that happens is when you try to read everything and be as broad as you possibly can. It's really hard to become an expert in any one area. And I think looking at how to train models to achieve that is probably more down the road for companies like Cognistx.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric. Kaushik, let me give it to you. Can you also talk about some of the key features of Square, the closed extractive model that we've built, and why do the customers sort of fall in love with it?
Definitely. So as we have been discussing, the key features of Square is the ranking. We provide multiple answers. And unlike ChatGPT, which is generative model, if you type the same question, our answer doesn't change. So this is very important from customer point of view and even from compliance point of view, that we have this answers which are like consistent, even though you change keywords, even though you change the way the question is formulated. And yeah, confidence helps our customers to decide if the answer is correct, and also go to the location where the answer is present. And we also have something called static and dynamic question answering. So static is, we take more flexibility of modifying these questions, because static question answering gives this ability to already know what questions people ask, so we can further fine tune and add a lot of customizations there. So yeah, I would say we are like we have a lot of these reusable components, and we have seen many extraction issues. As people say, garbage in, garbage out. So we have fixed a lot of those things in our past with our experiences with customers. So that way, like, we do have really good edge, and we have domain-centric models which are ready to go, and we also have annotation tools which further train these domain-specific models to achieve better accuracy, because each customer is different and their expectations are very different from our engagement. So all this are what we have, and yeah, very excited to see more customers in this space.
So, Eric, to you, where do you see this going, both with Square and ChatGPT overall, sort of from an industry perspective, the state of the art from a research? If you could, provide some vision for the future, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so I think you can think of it as the slow process of commoditization of certain technology layers. Um, now that we have Apache Lucene, as an open source, downloadable search engine, anybody, can index, a corpus at a sentence level and build, a fairly credible, baseline QA system for a particular, document domain pretty quickly. So if you think about sort of evolution as providing like the next level of technology on top of a search engine, then I think what you're seeing now is that transformer architectures have a retriever and a reader API, and it's a very common commodity right now to train models that have a retriever API and a reader API, which tries to localize the answer text. So my guess is that there already is something, that you could build with Hugging Face libraries that represents like a nice baseline for something like that that you could compare to, just a search engine. But I think that's where we're going. I think we're going to have other interesting domain applications of question answering. Um, but I think there's got to be that commoditization where, the most popular and, best performing models are going to start to become something that's fairly ubiquitous and not, just limited to, particular large company.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. So I think this has been very, very informative. Patty, so if people are interested in Square, what are the next steps? What do they need to do if they are looking to build a closed QA system for their particular domain? What are the next steps?
I think a great next step is to visit Cognistx.com and learn more about Square, and actually to reach out directly to Kaushik. Kaushik is one of our leading experts on staff, and he can answer just about any question you have about Square. And we also have some existing webinars that people can watch, and we'll post the last webinar that we had. And I think the last webinar that we hosted earlier this year really covers a lot of the ground, where it really covers what Square does and how it compares to other systems out there. Kaushik, I don't know if you think that's something that people would benefit from.
Sure. Yeah, we definitely. So you can reach me at Kaushik at Cognistx.com. So it's Kaushik at Cognistx.com. And we are we will engage with you. We understand you. We can understand your problem. We can do quick demo if you are interested, and we can take things from there. Sure.
Exactly, and I will post links to our past webinars. I'll post a link to email Kaushik and quite a few of his blogs that he's written about on this topic, which has been pretty extensive. And I think that should get people not only interested but educated about where Cognistx is in this area. So I want to thank you all for joining us on AI Driven. And I know this is a topic that we'll continue to talk about and continue to cover from AI Driven.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you again, Kaushik and Eric.
Thank you.
It's
great to see you. Take care.
Thanks for listening in. Learn more about how AI drives what we do at Cognistx.com.